Welcome to Unpacked, where we're uncovering life's ups and downs from love and mental health to career and growth.
With candid stories, honest advice, and special guests, this is your space for conversations that make you laugh, think, and feel seen.
Jess, is the group chat open?
Dev, yes, it's open, and we're unpacking it all. Jess and Dev here. Welcome back to the show, Unpacked. Today, we're going to dive headfirst into the chaos that is dating. Or maybe it isn't chaos. The ghosting, the green flags, the red flags, the so what are we now questions and moments. And we're going to talk all about it. So grab your tea, your wine, maybe water to stay hydrated at this age, or whatever's fueling your love life right now, and we'll get into it.
I'm so excited about this topic and our guests, which we'll get to in a minute. I have a lot to say on this topic, and I have a lot of questions, a lot of preguntas that need answered, and hopefully we'll get some good insights today. But in preparing for this episode, I thought about, what were some of my earliest dating memories forming relationships with people, what I learned along the way. And while my dating was very limited because I got married at a youngish age, I do have some standouts, and I'm wondering should we share some?
Yeah, we'll share some stories, and then we'll introduce our guest so that he can maybe get a sense of what he's working with today before we dive in. So yeah, let's share some stories.
So I just remember, first of all, the story that stands out the most to me is there was a guy that I met that I was a little bit going through a bit of a bad boy phase where I liked guys that were edgy. I lived in a very protected Orange County, California, which is a very
OC. Okay.
The OC, shout out the OC, but it's not known, for its crime rates or anything. So it was very clean, Pleasantville-ish. And I think I craved something a little bit outside of that. So there was a period in high school where I was hanging out around a certain type of people who were involved in certain gang activities. And, I was intrigued by it, met someone, dated him briefly. He ended up, going to jail for stabbing somebody, I believe. And it was just
allegedly.
Allegedly. But yeah, it was very like high school. Like we meet up. My friend was seeing his friend, and it was a good time. It was fun. I think dating should be fun, and somewhere along the way it's gotten stressful. But my earliest memories are actually quite fond, and like I wish I had done more of it and like explored. You figure out who you are in dating, the things you like, the things you don't. But yeah, it was generally a pretty positive experience. I don't have any horror stories or anything, which is good.
Yeah.
What about you?
I don't have horror stories, but growing up in New York, I'd say my parents had me on the straight and narrow. I went to private school, but I grew up in Harlem, and I was kind of in the streets at an early age, experiencing all the things. I think of a date I went on in high school, because I think that's when dates were really becoming formalized and you could go out, without missing curfew. And I went to the movies because I feel like going to the movies at that time was a pretty standard date. The movies were fine, TMI, but we behaved during the movies. I don't know if my mother's going to listen to this, but we went to the movies, and then afterwards he's like, hey, do you want to go get something to eat? And I'm like, not really. I want to go home. And he's like, okay, well, just come along. Maybe you could, well, we weren't drinking at that time, but he was like, you can get a little appetizer, whatever. We went out, we went to BBQ's, which is a barbecue restaurant in New York. We sat down, and I ordered a whole full rack of ribs and ate that with some cornbread and I think coleslaw and something. And at the end of the meal, the man was like, or guy, he was a young boy at the time. He's like, damn, I guess you were hungry. And then that was pretty much our last date. But I say that to say, I definitely feel like I prioritized, whether it was a cocktail experience or a dining experience, something that was you both engage in during the date, in addition to getting to know each other. And then I have another dating story where a guy was talking to a rat on the subway when we were on our way to a restaurant. So it's been all over the place, but I agree. Dating should be fun. And I think I've had fun on those dates.
Safe to say we've had some interesting, experiences along the way.
Mm-hmm.
We do have somebody who can put us on the straight and narrow as to, maybe some of the reasons why we come across the types of scenarios we do. I would love to introduce our guest here. We have Naquan Ross, who is a freelance UX researcher who has a PhD in experimental psychology from Ohio University. Naquan has an eclectic background in multiple industries, including but not limited to technology, health, and academia. His personal research has oriented around the formation of personal relationships like attraction and dating, and more recently has been emerging into the formation of business relationships like employee relations and business to consumer relations. So without further ado, Nay, welcome to Unpack.
Welcome to Unpack.
Hey, ladies. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate being here.
We're excited to have you. We're excited to delve into all the things. And also, Nay, where are you from?
Originally from Brooklyn.
Okay, very cool.
Yes.
Where in Brooklyn?
Brownsville.
Oh, wow. My
Yes.
mother's from Brownsville.
Really?
Look
Okay,
at
we got
that.
to talk about that.
Okay.
But yes, originally in Brownsville. Went to grade school in Bushwick, though.
Okay.
So I always took the bus and stuff to Bushwick. And then while I was in undergrad, my family moved to Queens, Jamaica, Queens.
Okay.
So I know Jamaica as well. And now I am living in Jersey.
Okay.
Yes,
Lovely.
with my wife. Yeah.
Lovely.
And how long have you been married?
I have been married for over a year. It's about a year and a half now.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yes, for love.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I love it. Okay. Well, we're excited to have you here. Before we delve deeper and get into all the things, I think we'll get to the elephant in the room, starting with a kind of, is this a softball question? I don't know.
I think it's pretty light.
Yeah, it is light.
I can
It's
handle
light.
anything.
Okay. So we're going to start out. Okay. Is it true? Are men really from Mars and women from Venus?
Something light, like we said.
Yeah, that's a good one. So yes, men and women feel and need different things. So that is very true. I think a lot of times both go into, relations with each other, expecting the other person to sort of be like them or see things like them. So the more fundamental evolutionary perspective is that, women seek security, protection, and men seek more physical needs, as well as nurture. When you have those two different, I guess you could say, ideologies sort of working, a lot of times you're not thinking of the other person. You're not sort of putting yourself in their shoes when you're engaging with them. So just like a quick little example, if a guy cannot understand why woman doesn't want to have sex every day or something like that, it's just because they don't have that same exact need. Now, it does not mean that women don't have these needs. It's just that they don't have it in that same way. So that's like a clear little example that I know is very common for people. But so in a sense, they are from sort of different planets, but I would probably say like neighboring planets.
Is it fair to say that we misunderstand each other a lot?
Yes, that is communication is the biggest issue. That is the biggest issue. Yes.
Okay, that's an easy fix. Let's just
podcast done. All right. So try to understand your partner and you'll be fine. Easier said than done, definitely. Yeah. On that note, I guess what would you say are some of the bigger misunderstandings between genders? Like how are we missing each other?
Yeah, I think, and this kind of delves into a lot of other topics, but I think expectations is the hugest thing, especially during dating. I think a lot of times we are expecting something from this engagement that either the other person is not expecting or has a different expectation, or we're not making clear that's our expectation. So I think a lot of people struggle with that. And I think it's a general problem, not necessarily even a relationship problem. You may even have it, like I've been learning and sort of been exploring, and even in the workplace, you would have these type of things. So I try to encourage people to not really have as much expectations at all. But it's important to have values. And I think a lot of times we mix the two up. And, and just to be clear, values are things that you strongly are important to you, either like morals, ethics, beliefs, things like that. But the point is not to put the onus on the other person. It's just to communicate how important it is to you.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So an example could be like, you know, if religion is important, religion is one of your values, you can say something like, well, it's really important to me that I go to church every week, or it's really important to me that I pray every night. It's not to say we need to pray every night, you know, or, you know, I can't be with someone unless they go to church every week.
And if that is the case, I think it's okay, but you need to express that at the forefront.
That's a good point. So, because what I've learned is that a lot of times people are open to exploring and even adapting to some of the things that the other does. It's Arthur Aaron, he calls it the self-expansion model. So in engaging with other people, you can sometimes take on characteristics that you didn't necessarily have before, but you admire. So someone, for example, may not necessarily want to go to church or pray every night, but because you value it so much and you're not pressuring them to do it, they might actually engage in it more as well.
I see.
So it's almost like the delivery matters. You know, how are you going about that? And it might even be the fact that they don't do it exactly how you do it. And you have to sort of be open and accepting of that too.
Yeah.
You know? Yes. So for example, maybe this person only comes once a month to church, you know, and not every week. But guess what? That was better than not going at all. So you can see that they're opening up and they're learning and doing these things, especially because they found out how important it is to you. And now to some degree, it's important to them.
I get the difference between values and expectations. Where do you put standards in that picture?
Yes. Yeah, that's a good question. So I think standards is, I guess you could say, sometimes a manifestation of your values when you're trying to communicate your expectations.
Okay.
I know that might be a little...
Yeah, that sounds deep. Yeah. Oh, okay.
So like, I think it's okay to say like, hey, I would like to be exclusive, right? Okay. So I only want to be with you, and I want you to only be with me. I think that's okay to do that. Now, I think when you sort of do that and you're expecting sort of like, okay, yeah, I'm down for that, or I have no issues with that, but then it's not clearly outlined what that means.
Okay, right.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm tracking.
So it's like, okay, I don't have to be with you. You only have to be with me, and I'm only going to be with you. But does that mean that we're now girlfriend and boyfriend, or whatever the dynamic is? Because then the other person might be like, oh no, we're not that yet. Well, wait a second. I'm only going to be exclusive if we're that. Right. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, because like, if it's like, oh, hey, this is my girlfriend. You're like, wait, when did we say that we were boyfriend, girlfriend? Well, you said that we were exclusive. So you see how the things can mix up if things are not very clear.
Yeah.
So again, and it's not very common if I'm being honest, but I lean towards just trying to be extremely open, not really putting anything, sort of letting it take its course, you know, and that's what I do with my own relationship too.
Yeah.
It's so funny to hear you break it down that way, because I think that in the conversation of like, oh, you're exclusive with me, I'm exclusive with you, there's that implication of like, oh, then we're boyfriend and girlfriend, or like we go together, as some people used to say. But if you don't explicitly say that, you know, if you don't probe, and it's almost like therapy when they tell you to say to your partner, like, okay, so what I'm hearing from you is we are exclusive, which means we're boyfriend and girlfriend. Then the other person has a chance to chime in and be like, oh no, I was actually thinking we were not, but you know, and then you can have a conversation from there. But that's why communication is so important. And I wonder why, I might be jumping ahead here, but
that's fine.
I'm curious.
Jump around.
I'm curious, like, in terms of communication styles, there are many differences, very generally speaking, between the depth in which women communicate and men being more surface level communicators, I think, even within their own close friend groups. Is that because that's what's instilled in them from childhood? Is it a societal expectation of men needing to be strong and don't cry and don't express yourselves, and women needing to be the nurturers and the protectors, emotional protectors and emotionally stable and secure? Or do you think that there's other reasons for it?
No, I think that's the gist of it, because it is true. There's this idea of masculinity that men are always trying to portray. But the flip side of that is that a lot of times they're doing that because it seems that that's what women want. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, and think about it. Really think about it. When you come home, do you want your man to be like, okay, so tell me about your day? Like, I want to know everything. What happened between Sophia? Like, all these different things. Like, do you really want, is that what you envision? They're going for this more masculine man or this more masculine guy. But then in reality, there's actually research to support this when you look at a lot of speed dating research.
Okay.
For both women and men. What you state as your preferences is not actually what you end up deciding to be with. So
like your type per se.
Yeah. And this is why I keep trying to say, like, you just got to be open, because a lot of times what you think you want, you don't. So I always say this little thing. This is like my little phrase that I always say. And it could be a little confusing, but I hope it resonates, which is that, we don't necessarily know what we want, but we're still also the best to know what we want.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's like you have to operate with the understanding you have now, but also knowing that you don't know everything. You don't really know how you feel. This is how, relationships and feelings can change and evolve over time.
Right.
Especially, for example, always the clearest example is like if you were friends with someone, right? If you were friends with someone beforehand, you never even saw them in that kind of way. And then all of a sudden you're dating. How did that happen?
Yeah.
What changed? If I was operating under the same understanding all the time, how did I get to this point? Yeah. So we have to always sort of have this open framework.
How open is too open? So something I think of is if someone, for example, has height requirements as a standard and they're like, I only want to date guys that are X, feet tall. Should they be open to shorter people, or should they stay true to that tall man that they want?
So,
just as an example,
I'd love to hear your perspective.
So it's important to be open to all heights. You never know.
You never know.
You never know if the person who's for you just is not coming in the exact package.
Or they might need a little Prince heel,
Exactly.
Sorry. Okay.
Something, a little. We have shoes like that.
Right.
We have shoes like that.
Technology.
But yeah, it is important to be open to that. You can have your preference. I think it's okay to have your preference, but you have to understand that who is, and this obviously, this goes a little bit into metaphysicality, who is sort of like meant for you in a way, may not necessarily be exactly how you think they should be.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like my wife is Filipino. You couldn't tell me beforehand that I was going to be with a Filipino woman. Like I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Now, I have learned a lot about myself that I even got to the point where when I would dream of my wife or ideal woman, it would just be a silhouette or just like out of glance, which I thought was the most fascinating thing.
Yeah.
There's something here.
Yeah.
But I think it just meant that I'm open. I'm open to whoever this person can be, in which I can say that I wasn't always that way beforehand.
Yeah. What did it take for you to get to that point?
So one thing that I encourage everyone to do is serial dating, which is just going on constant dates with people, and even going on dates with people that you're not necessarily gung-ho about. So, and it's a little bit different. Don't get me wrong, for women. I want to say that as a disclaimer, because I think it's important for you to feel a sense of comfort, a strong sense of comfort when you go on dates. So I just want to preface that.
Yeah.
But for me, any women who reached out to me or liked me, I went on a date with. Yes.
Okay. whether they fit your physical type, quote unquote, or not?
No, I'll probably say half and half. Yeah.
Okay.
And I would just go. I would just like, let me just see.
Yeah.
Let me just see how this can be. Let me see who this person is. Let me see if we vibe, we get along. And you learn things.
Yeah. You mentioned manifesting. Do you feel like you manifested your wife or your love life in general?
That's a good question. I'm not sure I've really reflected on that. I think as I started learning more of what my values are in relationships, that I did sort of manifest this person. I like to think my wife, she came in at the right time. It was during the pandemic. She came in at the right time for me where I was at my lowest, which is so interesting because I'm not really a person who has those type of ebbs and flows with my feelings.
Yeah.
So it was a little scary for me, to be honest. And then for this person just to come in out of nowhere. Yeah. I wasn't even looking for this person. And then also sort of just going with the flow and just seeing how, and then I had to also put my relationship hat on and then be on and, sort of be on the mode and the mood of like, wait a second, is she just doing this to do this? Does she really believe this? Does she really feel this way? So, what she would say is that, I tested her in some aspects, but I don't think I really tested her. I just sort of gave her more free reign. I didn't want to box her in. So I kind of gave her free reign to sort of see how she truly feels. I remember she had got a message or whatever from another guy that she was talking to. And she shared it with me. And she was like, oh, like there's this other guy and everything. I'm supposed to go on a date with him in a couple of weeks. So, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. You should go on the date. Oh. And she was like, what? And I was like, yeah, you should go on the date. Like you should go and see how that is. And she's like,
I'm sweating.
You're okay with me going on? I'm like, yeah, why not? I was like, and what I told her at the time is that I don't own you. Okay. Right? So if you want to go on a date with someone, you should. And you never know what may happen.
So
let's pause there.
Yeah, I think there's stuff to unpack there.
For me, if that was me, I would say it's giving he's not interested. And he's giving me an out because he, respectfully,
yes,
I would think he doesn't want to have the hard conversation of saying, I'm not interested. So he's finding a subtle way to be like, here's an out, go find somebody else to put your attention towards because it ain't here. That's how I would take it.
Me too. I'd say, well, okay, he's clearly not that into you, so I guess I need to go elsewhere.
Right, not him pawning me off to somebody else. So
yeah.
I'd love to hear what were you thinking when you were saying that?
Yeah, so I knew that this is a possibility that she could go with this person and have something or whatever, or she might even think that I'm not into her. And very well, she did speak to people about the situation. She's like, she tells me in retrospect, like, yeah, I went and spoke to this person, and this friend, and I was like, and we were so confused and trying to understand everything.
I would be too.
But for me, I think you also have to pay attention to everything else that's going on. Right? So if you're just focusing on that part, you're not seeing the whole picture. So if I'm saying like, hey, you should go on that date, right? And see how it is, I still want to see you next week. You know what I mean? I still want to do the things that we're doing. I'm still calling you every day.
Yeah.
These things are not changing, right?
Falling back. As
these things, exactly.
You're doubling down, essentially.
These things are not changing. So in doing that, so in her mind, and she admitted this to me, which is that she assumed I was speaking with other ladies and things like that. I never spoke to anyone else after I started connecting with her. But it was okay. I was okay with her believing that. Because I want her to know, I sort of want her to feel like she can explore anything. So you go and have this date with whoever, and I know that if you come back to me, then you really want me. Like, look, You have no ring on your finger.
Mm-hmm. That's
but
fair.
in my mind, I already knew this girl's the one I'm not really talking
Wow,
about.
you already knew. And you were like, hey, I'm not going to lock it down. I'm going to let her explore. And then, so at what point was it, okay, it's time to lock it down?
I think actual time matters. I know some people are mixed on that.
Yeah.
I understand that.
Mm-hmm.
But actual months passing matters.
Yeah.
And then us spending time together. I remember there was this one time where she almost said, I could tell she was about to say, I love you.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And we must have been like dating for like, I don't know, 3 months or something. And I'm like, no way. I'm not going to let her say that. You know what I mean? I was like, nah, I was like, you don't have to do that right now. I was like, I want to make sure you really feel that way. Because you might be caught up in the moment. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like we were in I remember exactly where we were in like a park having like a picnic and everything. And it was just a nice, honestly, it was so, when I think back at it, it was very like portrait picture moment.
Yeah.
And, you know, she was very sort of caught up in the moment. And I'm like, no, I need to make sure you see my flaws. I need to make sure that you see, you know, things that you may not like. And if you're still willing to do, then I know you really love me. You know what I mean? So, you know, we waited a while and then there was a moment where we both sort of said it together. And,
that's beautiful.
It wasn't maybe like another 2 or 3 months after that. So probably 5 or 6 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But valuable time.
Because, and that helped me too, right? Am I projecting what I want onto this person?
Right.
You know? So like there were things that she would do that I'd be like, oh, why is she doing that for? But I'm like, God, you know, I
still love this person. Right.
I still love this person. And I'm sure she felt the same way too.
Because I think of Married at First Sight and it's like, maybe those few weeks, that's not enough to determine if you want to stay married or, you know, it's like, how much do you really know about this person, flaws and all?
Right.
Yes, research shows that those relationships tend to end.
Which I think the show does.
Yeah.
Okay, so I believe that.
Well, that's a great question, Jess. I'm curious. Have you seen like Love is Blind, Married at First Sight? What are they slightly have different approaches, but like getting to know someone behind a wall, getting to know them emotionally, how they grew up without physically seeing them. Do you feel like that's helpful for a long-term relationship and stability or counterproductive?
So I don't really engage in some of these shows, and it's because it's almost like an allergic reaction of sorts sometimes when I'm watching this, because I'm like, oh my gosh, why? Why are they doing this? This doesn't make sense. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe it's for TV. And, you know, like it's hard to discern from like what is moving, you know, for entertainment purposes and what's their genuine feelings.
Yeah, the authenticity.
Yeah, so that's been a little bit hard. But to your other question about, you know, how it is to sort of form these relationships without necessarily knowing or, you know, meeting this person or seeing this person, I think that it kind of goes a little bit into long distance relationship territory.
Yeah.
So from what I've read and understand, long-term relationships can work, but they really shouldn't start off long-term.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So you need to sort of know and meet the person early on.
Yes.
You have to have some sort of investment, like a genuine investment into the person in order for it to be sustainable. But specifically in regards to not seeing them, I don't really see that as a plausible avenue in this day and age, given that we have so much technology where you're able to even see someone through video chat.
This is true. And I think also this triggers a recent memory where I'm on the dating apps. Mm-hmm. I matched with somebody, and I have beef with the dating apps that allow you to do this, but you can basically update your location when you're traveling. So even if you're not from somewhere, you can say you're there and then go back home and, you know, you match with people locally. And then there's a whole conversation that's had of like, well, I'm not actually from here. And how do you feel about long distance? And I feel like we get trapped into those situations. That happened to me recently. I connected with someone. It said he was, you know, in Manhattan. We started chatting. And then lo and behold, he's like, oh, I'm actually from DC. So how do you feel about long distance?
Mm.
And I think that with technology, it does make it easier to cast that wider net, but it is hard, to your point, to keep that focus and anchoring of like, I'm interested in this person, because you're not seeing them every week. You're not grabbing drinks. You're not really, unless you do, FaceTimes, and it has to be very intentional.
Yes.
So I do feel like long distance relationships are hard, but I know people that make it work. But I think it's all in like your intentionality behind it, how serious
100%.
They're not easy.
They're not. We tend to, it's a little different, of course, but we tend to look a lot at, researchers tend to look a lot at military couples when it comes to long distance relationships to see sort of how they're able to navigate that. And it's amazing what they're able to do. But I think there's a lot of investment. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of reliability and dependability. Mm-hmm. So, you are like, it's almost like you almost didn't have a choice. Mm-hmm. You have to sort of deal with this. Mm-hmm. But those people who are sticking it out don't regret it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? They don't regret. It's almost like they're getting a nice return on their investment, you know? So a lot of times you have to sort of be planning things. So for example, is this going to be long distance forever? Military couples know that that's not the case. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Is this person always going to try to reach out to me when they can? Mm-hmm. Military couples know that they will. Every single chance they can get.
Yeah.
You know what they're doing.
Yeah.
You know what's occupying their time. You know they're trying to support the family. These different things.
Yeah.
Kind of what you just said, like, the intentionality of what you're doing is important. And you have to be very planning and organized. I think people who are disorganized, for example, just as a fundamental personality trait, will have a hard time in long distance relationships.
Yeah.
So we would like to ask you a couple questions and pick your brain a little bit, and really just hear, like, from your perspective, where do you feel like people have the highest likelihood of meeting someone in real life? And where that's coming from is, like, I've heard matchmakers be like, oh, you need to go to a steakhouse, and you need to go to, where the finance people are. You'll meet your 6'5", whatever. In real life, like, are we supposed to meet people at the grocery store? If you're anti, digital app dating, is there a formula to meeting somebody in real life from your experience?
Yeah. So there's a little bit of controversy here, but it's usually at school or at work, to be honest.
Really?
Yes. Because you're seeing them frequently. There needs to be a frequency and a proximity factor. Mm-hmm. Now, I know in the workplace, a lot of times you're not able to engage in relationships. And I know a lot of people go into their job saying, I'm not going to date anyone. And I understand those things. But a lot of times you connect with someone there, or you end up having some sort of like crush with someone there because you spend so much time with them, So a lot of times that is the most organic in real life, place to meet someone. Now it can also be like a neighbor in an apartment building.
Yeah.
That can work too. But workplace and schools seem to be the most prolific places where people say they met someone in real life first.
Is that because a few things are going on in my mind. Like, as humans, do we need a forcing function where it's like, okay, I don't have to consistently go to your space to see you, but like naturally because of work or school, I see you, and that helps us kind of flourish? Or is it also, what I'm hearing is our generation and even Gen Z, or is that them? Yeah, Gen Z, sorry. There aren't as many social spaces for us as older generations. I don't think as many people are going to a religious institution, or there isn't something communal that you go to frequently. So it's kind of, is it really just school and work that we need as forcing functions to keep seeing and trying things? Is that what we need?
I think sort of both are true.
Okay.
So like, I do think that, school and work, they are these conduits that are, allowing us to interact with people, but it's also doing it in a way that we didn't have a choice.
Yeah, that's fair.
Right?
Yeah.
So we didn't have a choice but to interact with these people. So now it's like, oh my gosh, like people always say like there's so many fish in the sea. But the fish that you're usually going to go is the one that's closest to you.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean? The ones that are close to the shore.
Yeah.
You know, like you're not going that far out. You're not doing, because that requires more work on your part.
Yeah.
So like even when it comes, exactly. So you're talking about going to, you know, a steakhouse or a specific bar or something, you have to do that very frequently.
Yeah.
You know, if you're trying to meet someone, and then guess what? That other person would have to do it somewhat frequently.
Yeah.
You know, the idea person would have to sort of do the same thing too.
So my biased reaction to that is, well, damn, it just feels like men just aren't consistently showing up, or, you know, if it's not school or work, they're not consistently taking that initiative to say, let's meet up. Right. So I think to lead to the next question, what are men struggling with most in dating right now from your perspective? Not coming from Jessica's biased POV that I just shared.
Yeah. You know, it's a little different across generations.
Okay.
I've been learning a lot that, you know, Gen Zers are not really trying to leave anywhere. So that seems to be very clear. So if you don't have those conduits like school or work sort of pushing that, then it has to be a huge sense of common interest already. You know, so some people have met people, you know, online on a video game, or some people have, you know, met someone because, you know, they end up talking about the same show or something like that.
Yeah.
So it has to be a huge sense of common interest. Like, for example, you know, maybe you go to a specific convention or things like that. And then you're like, oh, snap. Like, we both have this common interest. And because we both have this common interest, you might be someone I actually like. But it is a little bit harder for Gen Zers. Now, millennials, they, especially older millennials, tend to toe the line back and forth because a lot of times they do like going out and being engaging. They like interacting with people and things like that. Yeah. So happy hours and things like that, those are good spaces.
Okay.
Those are good spaces to be in, especially as a millennial.
Okay. Does research show that, this is a leading question, I'm just saying, does research show that millennial men are afraid of commitment? Because what I'm hearing from you is perhaps millennials are open to happy hours, open to social functions, etc. But what I'm seeing, and I don't have the stats, is that that's not really leading towards commitment or exclusive relationships, or even, dare I say, marriage with the older millennial males.
Yeah. So the research suggests that no matter what, in general, just generationally, people are less committed. So like millennials are less committed than Gen Xers. Gen Zers are less committed than millennials.
Is that across men and women?
That's across men and women. Yes.
Interesting.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Very interesting.
Yes.
I saw something recently that said that the reason why men more so are less committed is because they're struggling to find their role, because they, you know, women are needing them less to provide financially or that stability or what they historically have provided for women who were more in their traditional female roles. Do you agree with that? Yeah,
I've seen some anecdotes about that for older millennials and young Gen Xers for sure. Because, you know, women are leading in a lot of different areas. For example, they're the most educated, you know, they tend to have the most job security. So there's a lot of
Keep
that.
Keep going. What else?
So there's a lot of things that, you know, women are sort of taking the helm on, and they're capable of doing it. You know? Like women don't, to be honest, they don't really complain about carrying the weight. So I think because of that sort of persona that they have, that, yes, there are some men, especially who are raised very traditional, who are very lost in that. They don't know what to do. And they, you know, this is where you have the conversation about like having a submissive women. I don't really subscribe to those type of terminologies, but I get what is being sort of said is that, you know, some men would like a woman to allow the men to take care of things, you know, but what women would say is that, then take care of it. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm just doing what I need to. We got to keep doing.
Somebody has to
You
keep
know,
this moving.
someone got to keep this afloat. So while you're waiting to figure out everything, I'm going to keep doing what I need to do. You know?
Right.
Fair.
So a lot of times that does sort of, you know, that can sort of make things a little bit harder between people. But I think, again, I think when you start thinking about things, not necessarily as a partner, but also as like, for example, men thinking of women in different spaces. So like, if you think about your mother, like how formative is your mother? You know, when you think about workplace, I'm sure there's at least one woman who's above you in some capacity. You know, like you have to start thinking, because a lot of times you're like, well, this is my partner, so they must be submissive to me. But like women in general, they lead a lot of things now. You know what I mean? Or they're able to lead a lot of things.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of times you kind of have to, and this is how I subscribe in my own relationship is that for the most part, whatever my wife wants to do or says kind of what we're doing. But she'll always hear how I feel because I'm not going to be silent. So she'll always hear how I feel or what I want us to do. But yeah, trusting your partner is important.
Interesting. Okay. So we don't want to do too much male bashing. So we'll the same question, like what about women? Where can we do better?
Yeah.
How can we be better? Yeah. How can we make men feel more in a safe space to tap into their emotional side, their sensitive side, you know, help them find their role and their footing?
So from what I have heard, right, and this is not research, okay? And from what I've heard, a lot of women do feel that they are, because they're able to do a lot of things on their own, that they don't necessarily need a man. Now, and from my perspective, that's pretty much somewhat true. You know, you don't necessarily need a man in your life, you know, in order to have a productive and well thought out life, right? But you cannot necessarily express that all the time. And I think that is the issue. So like when, you know, you're letting a man know like, hey, you know, like I'm able to do this. I got this, you know, the man's like, okay, so what am I here for again? You know what I mean? What do you really need me for exactly? And then it also goes into other territories like, you know, sex, for example. You know, when women feel like, you know, I don't need to have sex. You know, if you have that sort of viewpoint, then men feel like they're not able to make you feel a particular way. You don't need that feeling, essentially. And that, again, it kind of goes into a little bit of in the weeds a bit, but it's a lot of assumption and projection that happens, right? So women are like, oh, I'm not going to let this man feels like he can control me or whatever. Everything is not going to be, you know, put in the stock with him. I'm not going to be sitting here waiting for him, all these different things, you know. But then men are also like, well, she's not going to sit and wait for me anyway. So why am I? You see, it's a lot of like, like again, it goes back to the communication aspect. Yeah, it's like, I'm assuming this because you're doing this and I'm doing this because you're assuming that. And it's like a lot of back and forth there. So I always try to tell my friends who are women that just try your best to be very open-minded. Try not to disclose everything either. You want the person to learn more things about you. Right. You know, you sort of, and then I think it's also okay, which is very true. And I'll share a personal story about this. You can take initiative also. You know, I think that's huge.
Women?
Yes. Okay. Women can take initiative also.
In what way?
Yeah, I'm curious. The example.
Facilitating a date, you know, starting a conversation, going up to someone and asking them, or like that. Oh, it's just
never.
Let me continue to listen. Sorry. Yes. Initiative.
So
yes.
Yeah. So like for me, the rule I had was also any woman who comes up to me, no matter what, she's getting my number. No matter what.
What? Wait, do you think most people subscribe to that? Because I love that openness. Yeah.
No, but I do because the mere fact that you are willing to do that already shows me that I already kind of like you.
Yeah, that's fair.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're able to do that. That's good. So for me, you know, and even when it comes to my wife, I had mentioned this before, but like she reached out to me first. She initiated different things.
Yeah.
She gave me her number first.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
She said like, okay, let's video chat now.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
She said, okay, I'm ready. Let's meet in person. Well, this is the pandemic too, but like, let's meet in person, which I thought was good.
I love that. Shout out to your wife.
Shout out to your wife.
Judy. Yeah, shout out to Judy.
Shout out to Judy. Yeah, I love this. Two thoughts. One, when I first met my now husband on the elevator, we walked to the train. Before I got off the train, I said, hey, do you want my number or what? So I kind of, I mean, I could have been a bit more nice about it, but I took initiative there. And then the second thing I think of is I don't really think guys approach women as much as they used to. This is anecdotal, but I feel a lot of my friends are like, hey, listen, I'm just going to take initiative and approach a guy, or I'm going to take initiative and say, hey, here's my number. You know, we could see where we take it from there. But I don't hear from guys like, I'm ready to go up to this woman, or, you know, I'm going to do X, Y, Z. It seems like they do want women to take the initiative, but it's like, it might be kind of exhausting sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, are they tired of just getting rejected? Because it does take men a lot of courage, I think, to walk up to a woman, especially when she's in a group of friends. And I feel one of our mutual friends said that when she was single, when she'd go out with her girlfriends, if she wanted to meet somebody, she'd break away from the group and walk around by herself.
Nice.
And that's when she met people. They would not approach when she was in a group.
That's true.
So is there research that supports that?
Yes. So you are more likely to be approached if you're perceived to be alone.
I feel like men will put forth a lot of effort, like the chase, court. As soon as you start showing mutual reciprocal energy to them, it's like they don't know what to do with it. And then they just fall all the way back and fizzle into the background. What are your thoughts on that?
Yes. So that sounds like the notch on your belt kind of mindset, where it's like all they want is the chase sort of thing. I don't think it's as common anymore. I think that's starting to wind down, but I think it's an aspect of what I call like dating fatigue.
Okay.
Whereas that you're putting a whole bunch of stuff and things like, for example, if we go with a guy's putting a whole bunch of stuff, trying so hard to get this lady, trying to get her, blah, blah. She's not giving anything. Then she like responds with some sort of interest. And then the guy still pulls away. A lot of times that's just because it's not what he was expecting right then and there. Right. So it's almost just trying to find ways to just keep it open, keep it going in some form. But again, let it just naturally close. Yeah. If it's not going anywhere, it can naturally close. I know sometimes it might seem like ghosting and things like that, but a lot of times it's not, especially when you're on the apps, right? Yeah. So when you're on the apps and it's like you reached out and then the person reached out and then now it's becoming sparse, but it's sparse on both of your parts, right?
There's
it's not like
questions being asked and things.
No one is keeping this going. So maybe we both don't really have this interest anymore. You know what I mean? Did I say, okay, this is over to every single person I had a date from a dating app? No. Yeah. Right. You know, like it just sort of naturally happened that way. And we actually see with like Gen Zers in particular have become more, both men and women have become more sexually fluid. So by doing that, so they're just like, I just want to see, I want to see how this is. I want to go and see it. And that's fine. You know, how they choose to identify themselves during that period or even after that period is up to them. But they have sort of coming with this open framework of just, you know, living in the now and sort of having these things that are of interest to them.
I think the generational differences are interesting because I think for millennials, like our window of exploration was like college. You go to college, you start exploring, be it your sexual identity, be it with alcohol, be it with drugs, be it like, you know, you kind of go through that period and then you graduate into adulthood and you kind of know. But what you're saying is for Gen Z, they're kind of off rip, starting off exploring, tapping in, something's catching their interest. They want to dig into it a little bit more. So I think there is value in that because you know who you are earlier and you can live a more intentional life after that. Because you know what you like, what you don't like. All right. So, okay, this is controversial a bit, but who do you think should pay on a first date?
That's a great question. So I subscribe to, so there is a relationship coach named Matthew Hussey. I love his take on this, which is that men should always be prepared to pay and women should always offer.
I like that.
And I really like that a lot. I strongly think because, especially in American culture, that the men should pay. And I think the women, it's okay for women to expect the men to pay on the first date. So what I've heard is that a lot of times women are more comfortable not paying. Are comfortable paying a portion or even all. And I'll explain why.
Okay.
Or when it's a future date. This is starting to come into play again because of more of the newer generations. Mm-hmm. So a lot of them, because they have explored different types of relationships, the expectation is that whoever is initiating is the person who's paying.
Mm.
You know? So when you do that, you're like, if I'm like, hey, let's go out, and get a drink, I need to be prepared to pay because I'm the one doing. If the other person offers, that's great. Then I could be like, okay, we can split it, or, oh, okay, sure, you can pay for it. Mm-hmm. But first date, I do think that across generations, it still seems that the expectations that either it's the man or if it's same sex, it's whoever initiates. Mm. So, and I agree with that. Now, when it comes to the offering thing, I think it's important for women to offer. I really do. Or whoever is not the initiator to offer. Now, if the woman insists, let them. Mm-hmm. I always try to tell men, let them. Mm-hmm. You don't want to have a fight.
Fair.
You don't want to have a fight on a date.
Yeah.
About money.
Right.
And about paying for a date.
Mm-hmm.
So if someone is strongly insisting, let them. Mm-hmm. That works both ways.
Right.
So when you offered, and I was like, thinking like, oh no, I can. This was a big bill. I can help. Mm-hmm. No, I got it. No, I really can. No, I got it. All right.
Okay. Well, that was 3 offers in that example. How many times should
you don't have to you don't have to offer that. I honestly think you should you say it once as a courtesy, and then you may say it an additional time to show that you're like insistent on it. Mm-hmm. But if not, you be like, shoot, when some of my friends are like, no, I got it. Like, oh, that's true.
Should women offer even if they don't truly believe that they want to either pay a portion or pay for it? So if I go out on a date and, the bill comes and I'm like, oh, I could cover it if you want. But deep down, I'm like, I do not want to cover this. Should I still just put it out there because it's the right thing to do?
What Matthew Hussey gets into a little bit more is that you should also be ready to pay some sort of portion.
Okay, fair, yeah.
If you can't, you shouldn't go on a date.
That's fair. That's fair.
Or you can strategize the date, which is what I've also told men to do. Mm-hmm. So if you don't have the big bucks, stuff like that, you don't need to go to a fancy restaurant.
Right,
you know
right. To try to impress.
Try to impress.
Yeah.
A lot of people, I have seen stuff on social media where there's been, complaints about like, oh, like, he just took me to the park and things like that. I'm like, that's fine.
Have you heard about the Cheesecake Factory?
Yes.
Which is old, but it's
yes.
I love Cheesecake Factory. Some people
don't. Give me options.
Take me.
Give me, there's a bar.
Right, yeah.
That menu.
Some people were saying like that is a no-go.
No, I disagree.
I went on a date to KFC, which is not acceptable. But I mean, Cheesecake Factory is way better.
I disagree. And you have to think about what you... like how you feel about this person.
Right.
You know what I mean? Now, granted, if it's our first date, you may not know necessarily how you feel.
Yeah.
But you have to operate with like, okay, well, let's see how this is going to be. You know what I mean? Like, I'm always open. So I'm like, see how this is going to be. Right. Now, I've definitely been on dates with women who are strictly just trying to get a meal.
Oh, that's terrible. Well, I know men who try to get a meal.
Really?
Yeah, think about the one. I don't know if you heard the story, but yeah, I've heard stories.
I have not heard.
Or
men
even
doing
guys who are like, "Oh, I forgot my wallet.
Oh, heck no.
I can't find my card."
Oh no, I can't.
Okay, I'm glad you haven't heard that.
No, I have not heard that, thank God. But I know there's one girl that comes to mind where she would literally line up breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And not because she didn't have it. It was just because she just...
What did she want to be courted, or she just wanted...
she had no expectations of anything.
She wanted a free meal, though.
She wanted a free meal, but it wasn't like she was hurting. She was a very successful woman. Like, she had it, but she just enjoyed the act of being wined and dined.
Wow.
Yeah, that's not okay. I'm just going to say
she definitely didn't offer.
That's not okay.
No, she probably didn't. She probably didn't.
That's not okay because, again, you're going into it almost like with false pretenses.
Yeah.
When you're going on dates. But yes,
yeah.
I will say first dates do tend to have a little bit more of special handling, but I think anyone who's going on a date should be prepared to dole out some sort of money.
Yeah. Or get extra creative.
Yes. Or get creative.
Yeah,
and you can do that too. So for example, if someone is like, and I walked this through with a guy before. So like, if a woman is like, hey, I want to try this new restaurant so badly. I've been wanting to go. Maybe we should go together.
Yeah.
And you're like, you're looking at it. You're like, okay, it's a bit much, right? You could, then what you should do, instead of just being like, okay, or whatever, you can be like, why don't we save that for a special moment?
Oh wow. That's a good one. Yeah.
Right? Why don't we save that for a special moment? Now, instead, why don't we go to the park on that date and then we'll go to that as a special moment and I'll make sure we have a great night.
So
now you have time to save in order to have such a date.
Yeah. And you're also planting the seed of there's going to be a future date.
Exactly.
So I'm investing time.
I'm investing in this. I know we're going to see each other again.
I like that a lot. And I do want to give credit to the men, and I'm saying men because they usually do pay on the first date. It's expensive.
It can be.
It can. For men to date, especially if they're out here dating multiple people, as they should. If you're unattached, have fun. But I give it to the men. It is expensive. So sometimes I give grace when they're like offering a coffee date, because I'm like, one coffee date times 3 dates this week times you're talking to 5 different women in the month. Like, it adds up. So I understand. I will offer. I don't really expect them to take me up on it. And I'm not going to lie. If they do, I'm judging a little bit.
I'm somewhat judging, to some extent.
Especially if they don't fight me on it. Is it true that a lot of men, maybe less now, but that men don't feel like they can get into a relationship unless they're financially stable?
The only thing I can say for sure with research is regards to the newer generations now is that they do sort of feel that way. And that's sort of why they are not engaging in that capacity. I can understand that, but if that person really does genuinely want to date, that is something that they have to disclose early on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think, because if someone who's willing to still deal with that, that means that they're genuinely interested in wanting to know you more. So, but I think that is something that you should sort of come up front. Now, I always say this too, like, because you guys know I've been in school and stuff like that. So I wasn't really making much of anything. You know what I mean? So I'm so grateful that when I met my wife, I had money. And she saw me when I was working. You know what I mean? She knows that version of me.
Right.
Because I'm like, it's just so good that she knows that, because I do feel like personally I would feel a certain way. Knowing that like she's never seen that version of me. She's never seen me sort of work and be able to do things.
Right.
So I love that she does know that. I don't know how that would be if she didn't. She would give you an answer talking about money. It would be
Let's
fine.
call her.
She's like, it'll be fine. But I'm like, no, I don't think it would be. But she's a very amicable and fair person. So like she's told me in the past she's offered to pay on dates even with people that she's interested in. She just felt like, hey, I like to eat and this is you know what I mean?
Right.
This is part of it. You know. I don't know their situation like that. I know mine.
Right. Yeah, that's fair.
I think it's fair, especially if it's something that a woman can do for herself. Like, I like to go out. I like to eat. I like to live this sort of life. I currently do that on my own salary for myself. And I want someone who can keep up.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's true too. And that's why a lot of times people are going on certain types of apps too. Like, Raya and the League and stuff like that. Cause you're trying to, be amongst people who can keep up with your lifestyle that you have.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I understand that too. Again, keep an open mind, but I understand that too, because you don't want to change too much of how your lifestyle is.
Mm-hmm.
And this is another thing too, because I know, Devin, you mentioned that about men not necessarily opening up too much and being expressive. So I'm sort of on a one-man campaign right now. Okay. I've been pushing a lot of my guy friends to be more in tune with their feelings and open up a bit more.
Love that.
So a lot of times when I'm talking with them, I'm gradually pushing them a little bit to say different things, and I'm even pushing them to be more affectionate. And then from the encouragement for women when it comes to such men is that it's okay for a man to be in tune with his emotions. It's okay for him to be somewhat sensitive or show a softer side. You know what I mean? Embrace that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think when women don't, that sets a man back a lot, So it's important to facilitate that a bit. You know what I mean? But it's okay. Or even when they're crying, it's okay to cry.
Yeah.
If they cry.
But sometimes so research has shown in the past that men do cry. They just don't cry in front of people.
It's a lot to dig through.
Mm-hmm. We talked about kind of having the conversation about being exclusive with somebody earlier when we started. Mm-hmm. And so is there a way to navigate through that conversation? Bringing up, okay, I kind of want to have the what are we conversation, but you don't want it to seem like a performance review or you're putting too much pressure on somebody to get to the level that you're at. You might not even know where they're at and you're curious. How do you bring that up in a way that feels safe to both parties involved, but actually dives beneath the surface?
Yeah. So I don't think it's a good idea personally to say it on a first date. Now, I know a lot of people are I want to let them know what's going on here. I'm ready for marriage.
Oh,
you know what I mean? What was it? That. The New York thing? I want.
Oh, yeah.
My eggs cracked.
Oh, exactly.
I want my name.
Marriage. You know what I mean? I want all this right now. So I get that. But like I said, you can communicate your values.
Okay.
Without sort of putting that on the other person. So you're just saying things it's very important, that we get to know each other, in a very serious way.
Okay.
So would you, tell me a little bit about yourself? Where did you grow up? How many siblings did you? You start having this. You start getting a little bit. You're peeling the layers. We call it. It's called
peeling the onion or something.
Yes, yeah. It's the self-penetration theory where it's by Altman and Taylor, and it's like peeling an onion layer, trying to get to the core.
Gotcha.
So you're trying to understand these different things.
So say that deeper. Before saying, what are you looking for?
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so those are things. Another good thing is to do it while everyone is in a good place, right? So you might be very happy, smiling a little bit, unusually, and it's I've been, and you can talk about how you reflect.
Yeah.
But hey, I've been thinking a lot about, us. And, I've been thinking about that. I would like to spend even more time with you.
I love that. I feel like it is a bit of a risk because if that person is not on the same page, it's the good mood turns bad.
Yes.
But it's also good to know that that's where your partner's at. And I think I agree that it is a good time to bring it up when you're both in high spirits.
Yes, that's such a great point that you bring up, because a lot of times, people want to have the conversation, but they're always waiting for the other person to do it.
Yeah.
So I always say, when you want it, that's when you should have the conversation. Mm-hmm. So if you really want exclusivity, then you should start having that conversation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you're I don't want to wait any longer. I want to know that it's just me or something like that.
Yeah.
Or I want to know that this is serious, then you need to have that conversation.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, you're going to continuously ruminate over that.
That's true.
Always wondering what if, where's he going when he leaves here?
Right.
Or who else is they talking to? And you don't want to get into these other territories where you're checking phones and stuff like that.
Oh,
you guys are not even labeled.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
There's a lot of different things you don't want to get into. So it's just best to sort of have that conversation. So yes, it is risky to do that, because there might be like, I'm not there yet, you know? But I always say people who are not there yet, there's a way you can navigate that too. So you can just say like,
do tell.
You can say something like, I can see that potentially being for us, you know, I'm still trying to understand exactly how I'm feeling, but I will say that I am feeling something different. I think that's fine because it's you're letting the person know that like, hey, I haven't processed this fully the way that you may have,
right?
But I'm still trying to do that, right? Now, I will say that is not an acceptable answer when it comes back up again.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes,
okay.
that was my question.
Yes.
How many times is that? Okay
I would even say the second, as long as it's not like ask today and next tomorrow. No.
What about now?
So,
You ready? Are you ready?
But you know, just you know, sort of bringing it back up, but like, hey, how you feeling about this? And then you know, you have to think of it more like a deadline in a way. It's like a deadline that you don't know what's coming. You know what I mean? So it's like, you know, do I really want to be with just this person? And now this needs to be a yes or no thing when it comes up again.
Yeah.
But you want to give them the time to think about it because it is very possible that they haven't really thought about it, you know? So when they give you that answer, then now they're getting the opportunity to really think about it, you know? Now it's on their radar. I'm trying to understand that.
So let's say, because it's hard out in these streets, it's like, let's say you've done the inner work.
Okay.
But all the men that you're kind of coming across are just not, I mean, I've heard crazy stories about, and male friends that I know personally, I'm like, you really need to work on that. It's kind of like, what do you, his name is, no, like, let's say the inner work is done. Do you just continue, to your point, focus on not having this assumptions, not having the projections, and you're just kind of continuing to be open? It like, would your recommendation be, hey, continue to fill your own cup so that you're manifesting what is right for you? What do you do? Because honestly, it's hard out here.
Yeah.
I've heard.
So I think it's important to make sure that you continue working on yourself. Always.
Because we all are. Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Always. Never stop working on yourself. I think sometimes we put that to the side because we want to be with this person, we want to be with that person. But it's like, well, how much do I love me? I have to stay focused on me. You know, when you're doing your work, a lot of times the opportunities come. You just got to be always, I think there's like a Bible verse where it's like your ear should be tapped. Like you should always be having your ears like ready. You're always ready for something to come.
Yeah.
So you're always like vigilant. You know what I mean? You're paying attention because there might be someone who comes along.
We've covered a lot. Are there any other questions we have before rapid fire?
No, I think we can get right into rapid fire questions.
So, Nay, Brooklyn or Queens?
Brooklyn, I have to say, yes. Sorry, Brooklyn.
Respect. Are men and women naturally monogamous?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
That's work and effort, unfortunately.
Both of our parts.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to do the other two?
Yeah, sure. Love at first sight, real or fantasy?
I think it's a fantasy. I think you can have lust at first sight.
Okay.
Yeah,
maybe
so
that's what it was.
That's love's cousin.
Yeah. Yes, love's cousin.
Do soulmates exist?
So I personally, and don't research here, I personally believe that soulmates do exist, but I do believe you can have more than one soulmate.
Okay.
All right.
You can have more than one soulmate. So like they're just multiple out there. It depends on where the journey leads you. I love that. Before we get to the last question, so a lot of stuff that you shared, what I'm hearing is cliche, but communication is key, right? The way that we make sure we communicate, the way we frame things and speak to our feelings, etc. That's really needed on both sides. It seems like men and women can make sure that they're not making assumptions or, projecting. Another thing I heard from you is really getting in touch with ourselves and loving ourselves in order to bring our best self to dating.
Yes.
So with all of the gems that you dropped, I even hear the date where somebody wants to go to a really nice restaurant and maybe you don't have it. It's like, let's save that for a special occasion. I love that. I might save that for the marriage. But If our listeners only remember one thing from you with everything we've covered, what should it be, Nay?
That's a tough one.
I
but
know.
I think it goes with the thing that, I think I mentioned that I say this often, which is that, we don't really know what we want, but we're still the best at knowing what we want, So I think it kind of gives you this breathing room to know, like, hey, if I haven't figured it out, that's okay.
Yeah.
But what I do know, will help me. What I do know will get me closer. It's okay to take chances.
Yes.
Obviously you have to be comfortable with rejection, which I think is important.
It's not easy.
It's not easy, but you have to get comfortable with rejection in the dating scene. But taking chances and risk, it really can pay off. It really can pay off.
That's true.
I love that.
We love it. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Nay.
Dropping your gems, taking the time. We loved everything you said. I'm sure we're helping a lot of people.
Yes. Love is everything. Love exists.
Exactly. And love yourself.
And love yourself. Yes, indeed.
And that's a wrap on Nay.
Thank you, Nay. And with all that being said, we've got more stories, more laughs,
more realness, and more unpacking next time.